Hello and welcome to Real Estate in Focus for those of you watching us online, and good morning for those of you that are here. Let's start today's session with yesterday's homework. Did you guys have a chance to do it?
Yeah. I did not, I have to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, one of them was easy, to come up with the list of people that you can approach.
That's a difficult one. That's a tough one.
Sure. I think Josh has done a good job. Yeah, that's a very good look at this. That's really good. I think this looks much better than I expected, but I have a couple of suggestions. Because we are going to use this as a flyer, so this might be a little bit of a big flyer.
Okay.
If I was in your shoes, I will do the same thing, but back and forth like this. So this, maybe this side could come at the back and the calendar could be on this side. I like the big boxes because people can use to write something. Yeah. So I think that's it.
Is a door hanger too?
Yes. Yeah.
And have like a tearaway.
Yes. Yeah. They will for 500. It will cost you about $50 more to do door hanger. Yeah, but that's it. So if you print like about 500, it will cost you less than 200, right? Less, including HST. Yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
And since it's only once a month, and you want to be different, and it will help you to be a little bit more healthy because you will walk to 5 different houses. Okay, so that's good. But how about the second one? Did you guys come up with the name of people that you can think of? Just say it out loud.
I have it in my head.
Sure, go ahead. So, not necessarily their name, but how do you know them? For example, is it a carpenter, or is it a friend, or is it a friend of friend? The relationship is more of interest.
I would say I have my friends in general, family, and then I have there's a baseball league I'm in.
Oh, okay.
And we all get along after the games, have barbecues and everything too.
Sure.
We even have a poker club I go to.
Oh, okay. That's where you lost most of your money?
Yeah. But other things too, like I go to 3 convenience stores all the time, and I've got to know the owners there through talking to them, almost on a daily basis. Same with gas. I get gas at the same gas stations all the time, so we get to meet them. Same like the mechanics I use to do the oil change, everything. Stop by with the coffee every now and then too.
How about if you promise something here in front of these people and myself that you will do something within this week? How about if you approach all those people, and then by end of the week, which is the last session here in Friday, I'm almost certain that one of those people either will say that I'm thinking of doing something in real estate, or I know someone. Because the law of average, which says out of 3, 1 person knows somebody that is thinking of dealing in real estate. So maybe I think in those people that which if I count it properly comes to more than 10 people. So if you approach them, you might get 1 person that will start working with you right away. So why don't you do that? And I think it's very important. As I was mentioning yesterday, it will help you to be starting your engine. You will feel confident. So it's important that you do that. How about yourself?
Well, that's the thing. I do not have many people here. And among my circle of friends, including me, there are 4 real estate agents. I'm the 4th person.
Okay.
So that's tough. And convenience stores and all this, I don't really go. So gas stations everywhere. Even the doctors and dentists that I have, that I know, not in a good relationship. I mean, just high five out of there.
Yeah. Maybe give it a little bit of more deeper thought. I'm sure you will come up with a couple of names that you can approach because they're important. You have invested your whole life with them. When I say invested, means a relationship of friendship or family or whatever it is. This is the best time to take advantage of you, and they should be the people that will help you to start. because you will get confident in how to deal in real estate, but also importantly that you will get something physical, tangible in your hand.
Yeah.
Then you say that, well, you know what, real estate works, and with one person I can make such a big check. So try to find someone that you may be able to do it with, work with. Is that on? Yes. Okay. So today we are discussing about the focusing on buyers, and in buyers, I think basically we will be focusing on these 3 steps. The first one is relationship. The technical aspect of relationship I will just skip through because you have been through school about this topic. Then the second one is about the topic. So basically the relationship is before you find them the property. You want to know how to deal with them. And then once they buy the property from you, then how should you service and keep in touch with them and build relationship with them. So we will go in detail of this. Okay, so the first one is, this is a question that might kind of link with what we were discussing so far, that some of these so-called friends and family may not be loyal with you. And why are they not loyal, and why in general buyers are not loyal? I have prepared a video about a year or a couple of years ago. I will play that to start this, and then we go from there.
At the end of all this conversation, so step 1 is the
that you will sign, and you will be my loyal customer, and I will be focusing 100% on you. This is how you get a loyal client, not by serving different people at all the time. You have to work with one buyer at a time. Thank you. Okay, so the basic point about this video is that, you know, especially when you're a new agent, this happens, and this happens to all the new agents, that as soon as someone calls, you will try to serve them. I think when you're a new agent, just for the sake of it, or for experience, you can do that. But in the long run, if you want someone to be loyal to you, see, because you're desperate, that desperation will show in your actions. When you just go and show them the house right away, they know that you're not a quality agent. Because if you were a quality agent, you would have not wasted time showing people houses before asking them the questions. Most of the buyers are smart these days. They know that, how come this guy will show me a house right away without qualifying me? I mean, it's like you going to doctor and giving you a prescription just looking at you without asking you questions. Would you respect that doctor? Will you not doubt that this guy did not ask me anything? How come he's just giving me prescription? I mean, the exact same thing applies to all different professions. You look at the professional that you're working with. If they kind of conclude right away and give you a solution right away, you know that this guy is a gimmick. There is something not right about this, or he has a lot of time on his hand. So having said that, no choice, no matter how desperate you are, no matter how long you have not made any deals, sit down and ask the right questions and qualify buyers. And I think that is the first step in making buyers more loyal to you, because they will feel more confident with you, right? And by the way, I think I didn't see a lot of interruptions yesterday, so you can do that. Please stop me if you need any clarification or any question.
I just wanted to add to what you were saying. It also could work on the other way around, because when I've experienced, a lot of times the client says, when I do ask them, what do you qualify for, have you been approved for a mortgage, they turn and say, I've got all that covered, I just want to see houses.
Yeah, I think by qualification, I don't mean necessarily just the mortgage.
Right.
Probably mortgage is a very small part of this. By qualification, I mean more so what type of property, what location, exactly what kind of layout.
Yeah.
Because if you're if you're in the first point of contact without doing anything, so they call you and you go and show them a house, they know that you have a lot of time on your hand. And also remember, from my experience, if people that are not working with you because you're not qualifying them, it means they're the type of people that will move from agent to agent to agent to agent. So that is their way of working.
Yeah.
And you don't want that type of a client anyways. I mean, they're not client anyways.
Yeah. So I mean, that's one of the reasons I have experienced that bad experiences where they come into the office and you get to know them. They say, we're buying this, I want to look for a house in this area, this is what I'm looking for.
Right.
And show them houses and put offer. But when it really comes to the mortgage, they don't qualify.
Yeah.
So then I have, in one or two cases I've done, the clients say, no, show me something that you've been pre-approved for a mortgage, then I'm going to take you out to show houses, because I don't know if that's the right approach, or is that the right way to filter them. I mean, you make the client upset, they say, oh, what kind of a real estate are you, agent are you, you're not showing me houses. But
right.
I don't waste your time, I don't waste my time.
Yeah, yeah. I think, well, everything in life needs to be balanced. Yeah. I mean, you can't
go with the flow, right?
Yeah, go with the flow. You can't be very rigid about everything.
Right.
I mean, the way I work is, that is my quote, go with the flow.
Yeah.
Whether it is your 30-second commercial or whether you're working with a client, I think you ask them some qualifying questions, but they may not feel comfortable disclosing their financial situation with you. Right. They might feel more comfortable referring to another mortgage broker, or they can go to their bank. But as long as you have this feeling that these guys are serious. On the other hand, if they come sit down with you, they come especially to your office or somewhere, they travel outside their house to sit down and that they are ready to be qualified, most probably it means they are serious. The second issue is whether they can qualify for a mortgage or not. So I think what I'm trying to say, we have to differentiate between two types of qualification. The first one is whether they want to work with you or not.
Yeah.
That's more important than anything else. They might be qualified for the mortgage, but they might want to just use you as a taxi driver to look around. At the end, they will go with someone else. That's what we don't want to happen.
Yeah, because they do not want to sign the BRA with you. Right?
Yes, yes.
They take you around and
yeah.
So we only sign a document once we're going to put an offer.
Yeah, and I think by signing BRA or buyer agency agreement, you will make them more loyal client because they will have more confidence in you. They will have confidence in you because they know that you're not somebody that's very desperate. I think, remember, human beings always want to be attached with winners, not losers. And because you're giving that image that you're desperate, within quotes, then you seem to be a loser. Are you getting my point?
Yeah.
So that's why, and they're buying a $500,000 investment. They don't want to buy it with a loser. I mean, I'm using the very basic words, but just to get the point there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think once you get the questions and qualifying them, I think the other thing that will make them more loyal with you is that if you're informed about the market, then you will give them some alternative options. So for example, they will say, I want the biggest house, the newest house with the cheapest price. Then you might say, you know what, that is possible, but not in Markham, but in another location like Ajax. For example, within your budget. What I'm saying is that when you offer these alternative options for them, they will feel more confident. It will show that you know the market. You cannot do this unless you qualify them, unless you ask qualifying questions, unless you know what kind of a property they're looking for, right? And I think I'm not going to go through this because it will get time unless you guys want me to. You have learned this, that you have to sign this at your first point of contact, right? And then there is also a fax version of this that basically you can fax it, right? So they have it as a brochure which you can download from the web forms, or you can have it as a fax option. This is the buyers, you could work in two ways. The customer service is most of the time used when it is your own listing and you just want to protect the interest of the seller more. Of course, we know the rules. We have some fiduciary duties to the customer, even if they're not client. We have to be fair with them and we have to treat them with integrity and all those things. That's good. But I think the difference between this customer service and the client service is there are a couple of duties that are different. And you guys have learned that in the school. I will not go into detail, but sometimes some agents might prefer to work with a buyer as a customer, especially if it is their own listing, right? And of course, this is the buyer agency agreement. So that the first thing was about sitting down and doing the buyer agency and the technical aspect of it. I think when you call them to the meeting, let's say at your office or you're meeting somewhere at Tim Hortons like some agents do, you want to ask some qualifying questions. And these are some of the important ones. For example, what type of a home they're looking for. Very important, right? And type of ownership. Now, whether they might be looking for a townhouse, but then townhouses are of condominium or freehold. Or the location. Well, this is way too important. Where, even within Markham, in which location? How the inside features should look, outside features, and the condition of the property, whether they want a basement to be finished or not, should it have a separate entrance or not. Now, the office have prepared something for you. I will highly encourage, I will just open that file. I would highly encourage you, it's a one-sheet file that you can that you can use. Okay, it's a one sheet. I will try to make it. Yeah. So basically, this has some of those questions. Now, have you noticed that in places that you go and people have this, a folder with them with a paper and they fill as you talk, you look more serious, right? It's like, when a police officer comes and you have a ticket, when they have this notepad in their hand and everything you say, they just write it down. They just go, yes, sir, and then they keep on writing. And you take the other side more seriously. And you should do the same thing. You should have this on your notepad. And then as you ask questions, keep on writing. And that will make that you're serious about this. You're taking this meeting seriously. You're taking this relationship seriously. As opposed to you doing none of this and then just going out and showing houses. Okay? Although this is part of the process, but I think I look at this form in another perspective. I look at it as filling this form will make them more loyal to you because they will take you seriously. They will feel more confident in you. When people are not loyal to you, most of the time, it is most probably that we as agents did not do a good job. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we did not give this image, this perception in their head that we are qualified to serve them. So they say, you know what, if I buy with this guy, I may not get a good deal, or I will lose on negotiation, or I will lose the opportunity, or you will not find me a good property, or whatever, because they don't feel confident in you. And you have to do these things to make them feel confident. So I think the questions that I've asked, one of the questions is when to buy. And especially it applies more now than any other time. When you get a client, they will ask you, should I buy now or should I wait? And I think the timing, some people will try to time the market. So let's watch this video and see if we can come up with some inquiries after watching this if you're coming across a client. this point that the real estate market is not simple. This is not just based on these two leading indicators. We have interest rates, we have pent-up demand, we have sometimes even external influences such as Olympic Games coming to a city that might affect the price of real estate in that city. So, but these 2 points, that the total number of sales and the total number of sales compared to the listings in the market, are very profound points to keep in mind before investing in real estate. Thank you, and hopefully this was useful for you. Okay, so this was just to give you a basic information about how real estate cycles work, and I think this video, real estate market is a lot more sophisticated than that, but those are the basic principles, the founding principles that I've explained. So any questions? Yeah, and I think I also mentioned that things like interest rate, like in our today's market, could affect, which is outside those 2 factors. That is more of in a normal. So basically the graph, if you notice, shows that real estate kind of flattens before it falls. And you can see that flat when it happens by looking at those 2 indicators.
So in today's market, what would you say? Are the prices going up?
Were you here on Saturday's presentation?
Last Saturday, no.
Yeah. I have were you here, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had about an hour presentation, right? And then as I was saying in that gathering too, it is very hard to predict, and most of the people that have predicted have been proven to be wrong, and they are big economists and working with big banks. So I'm not saying that I have the crystal ball to see future, but my predictions are that for the next 5 years, real estate market more or less will be flat. So if it falls or if it gains, it will be within 5% range. It will not gain substantially and it will not fall substantially. And I had my own 5 different factors why I think like that. Yeah. Okay, so where to buy is another point. So that was when to buy, and I think you want to have that basic information. This is where to buy. And I think both of these questions, especially where to buy, will come up. They will seek some advice from you as to where to buy. So I will play this video, and then let's see if this time you guys have questions, or maybe you want to add or a comment or something. Hello and welcome to Real Estate in Focus. You want to buy a house, but where? I think it's important to understand what are the needs. What are your needs? What you want to buy? What is your minimum requirement? Versus what you want. Okay, so although this video was prepared for a buyer, but I think you as a real estate agent, as a professional person that works in this industry, you should have that information and you should guide them. And again, by guiding them through those points, you will not lose them, but rather you will gain more. You will gain more trust, more respect, and they will feel more confident in you because you will look more informed. I think this is the biggest challenge, as I was mentioning before. Most clients want the biggest house, the best house, the best location, in the lowest price possible. So then you have to sit down with them and find out what are their needs, and then versus what is their want. So they might say we have 3 kids and minimum we need 4 bedroom. So that's a need, right? And that kind of a need, then you have to sit down, what is their budget, and then figure out where you can get that 4 bedrooms within their budget. As opposed to what they want. They might want a 4 bedroom, but somewhere very expensive, then they cannot afford. So you have to, there is a lot of clients that, I mean, probably most of the clients, when initially they start looking, they want a lot of things, but it doesn't meet their budget. So you have to figure that out. I think the difference between urban and suburban, it was explained there. Basically, you will get smaller houses, and in suburban, you'll get bigger houses. And schools are becoming important these days. It's very unfortunate. I was actually in a meeting with one of the school trustees just a couple of days ago that the elections are coming in Toronto for a school trustee. And I just brought up this point there. Unfortunately, all schools are not same in our province. If you can afford to be in a better neighborhood, that means you will have a better school for your kids. It's very unfortunate. I think it is not the kids' fault that their parents cannot afford and they're living in a neighborhood. So I think the quality and the standard of schools should have been same, but when I was discussing with this guy that's running for election for trustee, we kind of concluded that this is not an easy fix. It's bigger than his plate that he can do anything about it. But we had just a discussion to make ourselves feel good. But what I'm saying is that schools are very important. And you will see a lot of people are moving, for example, from south, let's say Scarborough to Markham, because they think or they have this perception that kids will have a better education here. So, and then within Markham, there are some neighborhoods that are having a #1 ranking or #2 ranking. Yeah, and they publish, and you should be aware of that. And that will affect the price of housing. I know a house, a neighborhood here in Markham, that the price of houses suddenly changed and increased 50,000 on average, because that school was ranked last year or a couple of years ago as #1 in Ontario. So those things, just by that ranking, the price could appreciate 10, 15, 5% or whatever it is. So you have to be informed, because this is important for most people that are moving. And and again, these slides were prepared for a buyer, but you as an agent should know the advantages and disadvantages of some of this listed, the shopping, the transportation. So when you walk in, you don't want to be like an agent that says, this is living room, this is dining room, this is kitchen. The guy goes, I know all these things. Why are you telling me this is kitchen? Tell me something more. And again, in order to have a loyal client and not lose them, if you have this information, you will look more informed and they will feel more confident, and they say, you know what, this is the right guy to deal with. So you should be more informed about the neighborhood that you're showing. If it is a little bit out of your area, maybe you're living in Stouffville and you're showing in Richmond Hill, then maybe do a little bit of research before going there. You will look good, and you will get a more loyal client. Now, this is also important, and you have to look at what is going on in the future of that town. For example, in Markham, we know Highway 7 is going to be expanded, and construction is already...
Or 7.
Highway 7. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Expansions.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So they have already started the construction. I mean, if you're driving west from this side, it's always
The
something
Bayview
going
and
on.
all that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good thing, and you should be aware of those things coming up in a town. So I think it boils down to these things. It is about the past, which is about the schools, the libraries, the community, and stuff like that. It is about the present, because present is your needs, what you're looking for, and future is where is this town going. And probably it might not be a bad idea that where you're showing, you should share some of the information that you learn from with your clients about the town or about the location. As I said, you don't want to be an agent that is just says this is a living room and dining room and kitchen. They already know those things. You have to add some value for your services. This might be a little bit more crucial if you're especially brand new in this business. It introduces you to the type of properties. So I will play this. Do you guys have any question before I move? Good enough? Okay. So this is the type of properties that exist in our towns.
Hello and welcome to Real Estate in Focus. You want to buy a house. What type of a house? You have many different options. Let me walk you through. Of course, the most common
Any questions on the type of houses or type of properties? Any question? So everything is clear?
Yeah.
One thing I want to just clarify, that duplexes doesn't mean that a property with a basement. It has to be legally zoned. This is a kind of a zoning, but this has to do with zoning. Well, zoning means that the town or the city has approved that property, that legally 2 families or 2 units can be there in that property.
Even though for triplex and fourplex?
Yeah, same thing. It's a zoning. Yeah.
So would that mean like separate entrances to
Each apartment.
Well, for example, you could have a house with separate entrance in the basement, but it may not be zoned as a duplex. And I can tell you, almost more than 90% of the houses are not legally duplex, but they're used as 2 families living there.
yeah.
So that's very important, because when you're listing a property that has 2 units, if the owner claims that it's a duplex, you have to go to the town, the town or city, and then find out if that is legally zoned as duplex. So I just wanted to clarify that duplex any 2 unit is not a duplex.
Yeah.
And also, when people say I want a condominium, you know that not only high-rise or a townhouse, even there are some detached houses in Richmond Hill, north of Richmond Hill, that are condominiums. So basically, they're in a subdivision that they pay their own garbage, snow, and all those things. Yeah, that's how they have been established.
Now, are those properties freehold properties, or how would that work?
So that's not freehold.
So it's on a lease, 99 years? Kind of?
No. It's basically exact same way that you're in a condominium high-rise.
Right.
You're just on a flat land. That's the only difference. So you own that specific lot and that specific property, but at the same time, you're sharing the expenses for the whole community that you're part of. So you're registered with the city, not as a freehold, but as a condominium, part of a condominium. It's a unit, condo unit. And some people think that condo unit means just a high rise.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think if once you know that where they're looking for and when they're buying, those crucial, and what type of property, so now we are at this point that we have to search for them. Have you guys been to the Toronto Toronto Real Estate Board's session that they teach you how to use Toronto MLS, right? So I don't have to go through this.
I only went for the first one. There's another one that they have that you pay additional to get more detailed training. Right?
Yes, yeah.
I need to go for that one.
Yeah, sure. You have the option of emailing the list to your clients. I think that's covered in the basic version, that you can email it and things like that. So then you know how to search, and there are different search criteria. The newest one just came recently. When I say recently, not months, but probably years, was the map search. I really like that because you can go to a specific location and then look at all the houses that are there, for example, in Markville area.
Yeah. But sometimes, sorry to interrupt, but sometimes some of the properties is not listed on the map.
It is not because the postal code has been entered wrong. Because the map works based on the address. Sometimes I have seen even downtown listings showing in Richmond Hill map, because the person that who entered the listing did not enter it properly, the address. Okay, so now we will give an offer. I think this is, when you give an offer, these are the main important things to keep in mind. Of course, price is obvious, how much deposit you want to give. In the past, when I say in the past, probably more than 10 years ago, it was general practice to give 5% off the price. So if it was a 500,000, you should give a 25,000 deposit. Not should, but that was a normal practice. But these days I have seen as low as 10,000, or even lower than that, as low as 5,000. This is not written in stone, but people prefer 5%, and there is a reason for 5%, that just in case things go wrong, then your commission is covered. That's how much the commission is, or was and it still should be is 5%. So now the terms, conditions, the difference between terms and conditions is that condition is something that the offer is conditional upon that condition that you have. The most common ones are inspection and mortgages. Once you get into commercial, you have a lot more conditions, which we might touch upon on Friday. What you're including and excluding, I think a lot of these issues have been discussed in detail in your education in school, so I will not go through it. But do you guys have any question? By the way, the form and the conditions, these are all available online. Although we have it on the computer, but these things get updated every year all the time. So try to use the version that's online, that's most up to date. The new forms just came about a month ago. So that is the most recent one. They constantly change it. They try to go with the trend in the market. For example, this time they have added another option that you can also communicate through email. Before it was just fax. So you have to keep in mind that these things, the conditions, the clauses, all the time changes, and just get the ones that are online. It's much better.
You get it on the app, the trap forms, right? On the maps?
Yeah. See, this is something that most agents don't do it, but if you want your client to feel more confident and also to protect the interest of your client and serve them good, most of the time CMAs or comparative market analysis, or basically giving an idea how much this property is worth by an agent, is done for selling, for the purpose of selling. You should do it also for the purpose of buying. That way, before presenting an offer and before making them sign on an offer, you will present this and you say you should give this much price for this reason, because you show them the comparative market analysis. Now, the CMA will also go and help you all the way when you go to negotiation table. Now, when you go there, the buyer or the seller or the seller's agent might ask you, why did you bring this price? Then you have something to justify. You say, I did my homework. This property is not worth 500, it's worth 450 for this reason, because you have done your CMA. But more importantly, you're serving your buyer, which is your client, but also you will the buyer will probably feel more confident because you will look more professional. A lot of agents don't do this.
Well, even buyers, sometimes they want to just put in a ridiculous amount anyway, so if they want to go so far under to get a deal.
Yeah.
So at least you show them,
yeah,
this is what it's worth, so
yeah,
you know by going that far under.
Yeah. See, and again, I think when buyers ask you a question, please try to back up your your answer as much as possible. They will tell you, so this property is listed, so how much do you think I should put an offer for? No matter what number you say, they will argue with you. They will say, no, why should I offer that? Let's start from something lower than that. But if you say, okay, let me go and check out, and I will give you my opinion, how much you should give an offer. You call them and sit down with them or email them or whatever mode of communication and say, I prepared the CMA, we should offer at this price for this reason. So, and don't you think they will respect you more because you have done that, instead of just throwing a number? Oh, it's listed at 500, let's start at 480. I mean, why? What's your basis for that? Okay, now I'm trying to prepare you with today's session in all different scenarios that might be possible, so that you're prepared. For example, you might come across buying a property that is tenanted. And you want to know how you should handle that transaction and what are the things that you should be aware of. This video was prepared by interviewing a lawyer here in Markham, and I am going to play this so that you guys, I interviewed and asked her exact same thing, because this is a legal issue when you're buying a tenanted property. And see if this raises anything in your mind after watching it.
Hello and welcome to Real Estate in Focus. When you're considering to purchase a property that is already tenanted, ranging from a small property with some kind of tenant in the basement to very large commercial properties, you have to understand that there is risks involved involved. You might be later on obligated to some kind of legal challenges. In order to understand the importance of how you can probably avoid some of the challenges that are going to come after closing and the type of property that you're considering to buy, we have called Maria Diaz. She is specializing and focusing on real estate properties to understand what are the risks are assuming a tenanted property.
Well, I think the biggest risk for everyone when it comes to tenants, whether for commercial purposes or for residential purposes, is the what if the tenant stops paying my rent. And basically, especially in an economy as we have right now, that is becoming more common. One of the things that I always advise purchasers when buying tenanted properties is to look at the lease. It's very important, especially whether it's commercial or residential, to look at your lease and look at what it is and who it is that is renting your property. For example, if you have an individual, then perhaps it would be a good idea to do a credit check of that person prior to buying the property or continuing with your lease. You should also look, or if it's a corporation, you can do your normal corporate searches to make sure that the corporation is in good standing and that they have not filed for bankruptcy or that they don't have major loans. Now, in terms of tenancies in general, if you are buying a residential property, you fall under a different act or a different law than it is if it's a commercial property. When it comes to the tenant protection for residential properties, you have to understand that it is much more difficult to evict or to let go of a tenant. So that's why it's very important to do those checks prior to closing that property.
So, sorry to interrupt you. So basically, you're assuming the property with the tenant,
Yes.
and you have no option because they might have a lease, or unless this is a single residential property or a unit that you want to move in as your principal residence.
Exactly. Usually, the landlord tenancy boards do not like interfering with the lease. So it's important, as I said, to do that background check before assuming that tenant and purchasing that property. Usually, for the most part, tenants are good tenants.
Right.
However, sometimes you do end up in a situation where you do end up with a bad tenant. And for those circumstances, you do have to be prepared that it will be a long battle with the tenant support to get them out of the property, especially if they have a long-term lease.
Right. And I think one of the other things that might help and avoid a lot of misunderstandings might be tenant acknowledgement form. My understanding that this is a form that the tenant signs, that this is my deposit, these are my terms, and this is how much I pay per month, right?
Yes. Yes, for the most part, most of the tenants will sign those forms, and normally they will sign those forms. But more importantly, we hope that you should also get something from the vendor saying that the tenant is up to date, so that if the vendor did lie to you on closing and did not tell you the truth or the complete truth, and the tenant is not up to date on their rental payments, then you can go after that landlord or your former vendor.
Right. So, thank you, Maria. Thank you very much for coming. And it is important to understand that when you're buying a tenanted property, there are things that you should consider.
Okay, so any questions on that?
Residential, basically a lot, like you said, there are a lot of people who live in the basements, and some may not have a lease agreement,
Right.
because sometimes because the basement is not legal kind of thing. So so if someone is buying over that property and you have got tenants who are staying there without a lease, and the buyer wants the basement for themselves, and these people do not want to move out, that's a difficult situation, right?
Well, actually, this is how you will handle it. So it depends what your buyer wants. If your buyer says, I want a vacant property, so then you will write it on the offer that the owner wants a vacant possession of the whole property, including upstairs and basement.
Right.
Now, if the seller agrees with that type of an agreement, that this is seller's problem. He has to resolve with the tenant how he handles the situation. Sometimes even if they're within the lease, they will give them, I don't know, a moving cost or a month's cost or a couple of months cost and say, go and find another place. It is not yours or your buyer's problem. But if you don't say vacant possession, or if you say that you want to assume the tenant, whether they have a lease or not a lease, that means that they are your tenant. You cannot kick them out the next day you move in. Once you assume, then it's a tenant, and all the rules that are applicable for a lease tenant is applicable to this guy, which means you cannot move them out unless your family is moving in. And even that, you have to give them 60 days notice, because they don't have, if they had a lease, you can't do much. But if they didn't have a lease, then you will give them 60 days notice, but only if you're moving out. I'm sorry, if your family is moving in. Yeah.
But I think it's immediate family, right?
Yes, yeah, of course, not like any family. Okay, so maybe with that coming in, we will take a break, and we will come quarter after.